the show of Hawkeye with me, Dave O'Hara. Thanks for tuning in. Got another great show lined up for you this week. I know you'll think so after viewing it. Craig and Stacey Schrader are getting ready for their dance marathon, so be sure to check out their progress via the Facebook page with Fight with Flash Foundation or fightwithflash.org. So thanks to them, as always, for being a part of our program and Fight with Flash Foundation in general. That being said, Parker Hesse going to join us for two segments. The former Hawkeye great defensive end, now a current NFL tight end for the Atlanta Falcons, and then Jett Beachum from Fox 28 and CBS 2 sports anchor will join us to close out the show. But for two segments with Parker Hesse, my friend, nice to meet you in person. How you doing?
Yeah, nice to meet you too. Happy to be here, Dave.
Yeah, you're very welcome, and thanks for being here. I'm referencing because Parker and I have been on Zoom for last year and this year. What I'm going to do is get the heck out of the way and let you take us up from when we talked to you this fall in October. You had just gotten back from London, got cut, getting it brought back. Well, congratulations, you've made your first NFL catches, but I don't want to bury the lead, so I'm going to get out of the way and let you get us up to speed. What a 4 months it's been for you.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, being a guy who's, on the bubble end of the roster, it's always a lot of ups and downs. But yeah, so when we talked last, I just went to London and got cut while I was over there. So I spent a month on the practice squad. Then after that, I spent another 4 weeks back on the active roster, played in 4 games. The guy I was playing for came back off IR. Went back to the practice squad for 2 or 3 weeks, got elevated because of a positive COVID test. And then after that, I was signed again to the active roster the final game of the season, played against the Saints. And so I'm still under contract going into next season. So
congratulations, and we've got some movement on the tight end for the Falcons because Hayden Hurst is going to be a free agent, probably won't be back. Lee Smith is retiring. It'd be Pitts and you have got good experience with the Falcons coach, as you mentioned, Arthur Smith, when you were with the Tennessee Titans. So that has worked out well for you, but I could not be more proud and happy for you. One, being a Northeast Iowa guy, walk on. I'm from Postville. That helps, but you're a former Hawkeye. But you've been such a good friend of this show. But just watching your progress, you've got to almost pinch yourself or shake your head every day getting up going, where am I at? What am I doing now? Because it has really gone from that zero factor to boom, now you're there and you're going to be one of the main, it appears as though going into this year, and you had a nice close to the year, 5 catches, 43 yards. Quite a deal. I'm out of breath talking about it for you because it's pretty cool stuff.
Yeah, it's been an awesome journey. I mean, honestly, I really do love playing tight end. Unfortunately, it's probably the position that was more stacked than the one position more stacked than defensive end in my time at Iowa. We had 3 draft picks at defensive ends I played with as well. But yeah, it's been an awesome journey, and I just give a lot of credit to the coaches that have believed in me and kind of allowed me to develop because coming out of school as a defensive player, not everything looked great right away. Right. But I've gotten the opportunity to keep improving, and I'm thankful for that.
I want to get to that when you and I talked about in interviews past. Your stick-to-itiveness and your ability in high school, you were a quarterback and you played defense, small schools, you play both sides of the ball. You go to Iowa, and I love the story that you said they called you and you thought, oh, what did I do? Am I in trouble? And they said, hey, we want you to move to defensive end. And so you became a defensive end. And then you go to the NFL and they're like, hey, that's been great, but we want to sign you as a free agent as a tight end. So you've been able to make that work for yourself. So what do you just take principles of being a football player and not the position specific? I mean, obviously you work your tail off. You've been known to be a hard worker. Anybody I've ever talked to about you in the Iowa program, outside the program, teammates just said nobody works harder than you. Is that what you would attribute that to, is just good coaching and working your tail off and saying I'm ready whenever called?
I would say it's just playing a lot of sports as a kid, honestly, is the thing. I know, a lot of people are really into specialization now, like, oh, I want my kid to have a scholarship, so we're going to play 45 baseball games in the spring and 40 more in the summer. But I played literally every sport. We made up sports. We were doing all sorts of things in the backyard, on the playground with my friends, with my brothers. And, when I look back at my football career, just kind of having general athleticism or ability that can be, used for different things, or just the ability to learn things, like learn something new with your body. I would attribute just growing up, just playing sports a lot and being active and, going to a lot of different camps and, being coached different ways. So that's something that I kind of attribute, that flexibility or, being able to change positions so often throughout my career is just, just general knowledge of myself and my body and how to compete.
I love the fact that you talked about that with, so much is made about specialization, and my kid's only going to play basketball, he's only going to pitch, and like you said, 45 games in a summer. And I was the same way. You grow up in the small areas like we did. People would say, "What's your favorite sport?" And I'd say, "What season is it?"
Exactly.
It's basketball, It's basketball, football, and you know the drill on that. And what I love to tell viewers now is you're back in the Iowa City area working out in the off season. You came back from Atlanta, so now you're going to be working at a lot of you guys still come back. I know that Tristan Wirfs last year came back. A lot of you guys in the NFL still come back and hit that hard work because you're going to get good work done here in Iowa City, aren't you?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there's always a good group of a handful of NFL guys in there on any given day, and yeah, I mean, obviously, a brand new facility. You're not going to, even if you're paying to train at a private place, you're not going to get a facility. You're not going to get a program like that. So, and then being there with young guys, 18, 19, 20-year-olds, kind of pushes you a little bit too. Like, all right, I got to quit sitting on the couch. If I want to keep my job the next few years, I got to start doing something. So,
scouting the talent pool upcoming. But the other thing, I'm sure they have all kinds of questions for you for the NFL, don't they?
Yeah, I mean, especially, now I'm getting to the point where there's not a whole lot of guys that I did play with in my career. But certainly when you come back those first few years, the guys you played with, they want to know all about your experience. And it flips really quick from, being new to now being considered an older guy or, older, maybe not wise, but...
Right.
But
wiser, yeah.
Wiser, yeah. So, yeah, the questions are kind of different, but, yeah, I'm looking forward to getting in there and meeting some of the new guys I haven't had a chance to meet yet.
This is great stuff. So we've got one more segment with Parker, and we're going to have him on whenever he's available throughout this winter and spring before he heads back to Atlanta for workouts. So he's going to come back and talk to us about Jake Gervais and some of the other Hawkeyes that are going to be in the Super Bowl. So how exciting is that for you, huh?
It's awesome. It's been awesome to see Jake get this opportunity. So.
Yeah. We're going to catch up on that. You'll stick around for one more segment with us?
Absolutely.
Thanks so much, Parker. He is Parker Hesse, former Iowa Hawkeye defensive end great, and now Atlanta Falcons tight end. So this is Hawkeye with me, Dave O'Hara. We'll be back with more Parker Hesse in just a couple of minutes.
In farming, everybody knows relationships drive the industry. And with Merschman Seeds, you've got a friend in the field. Hi, this is Joe Merschman. We're the friend that delivers with extraordinary speed. We're the friend that shares knowledge and innovation. We're the friend that cares about your yields and profits. And we just happen to have the most advanced seed technology in the industry. When you choose the best seed, you also get the best people. Merschman Seeds, your friend in the field.
Hi, I'm Joel from Tice Chevrolet. We've lived through some very interesting times the last few months. Ensuring everyone's safety is more important than ever. That is why we're participating in the Chevy Clean program. At your request, we will pick up your vehicle, service it, and return it after we've cleaned it using the current CDC guidelines. This is just another way to work towards exceeding your expectations. So give us a call and let us show you what it means to be part of the Tice Automotive family.
Welcome back to Hawkeye with me, Dave O'Hara. Parker Hesse came back for segment 2. It went so well the first time, you came back the second time. Hey, thanks again for doing this, Parker. And let's talk a little bit more now about some of the Hawkeyes you played with that are now doing well in the NFL, and AJ Epinesa with the Bills, our buddy Ike Butker with the Bills, and Micah Hyde. And I don't want to just keep it all the Bills and the Chiefs with Hitch and Neiman and all these guys. The last 8 teams left in the NFL had Hawkeyes. Somebody was going to touch the Lombardi Trophy. Now it's down to 2 with the Bengals and the Rams, and Alaric Jackson and Jake Gervais with the Rams, and Mike Daniels and Riley Reef with the Bengals. Reef and Daniels are both either on the practice squad or injured reserve. Reef played a little bit earlier this year, as did Mike Daniels for the Bengals. But Jake Gervais, a guy you know very well. You helped out at a camp of his this summer, the Davenport Assumption kid, and doing well with the Rams now, playing special teams. And Alaric Jackson played in a few games with the Rams this year, but now injuries and other roster spots are kind of moving around a little bit. But talk about your thoughts. And I got to share this with you off camera, folks. It was awesome. Now we'll bring it on camera. When you saw Jake Gervais and his LA Rams win the NSV championship again.
Yeah, I mean, I was just really excited for him. Him and I are kind of in the same position, being a bubble guy. A lot of ups and downs. A lot of times we're reaching out to each other. Okay, back in the practice squad, I got cut again. So just to see him play through this playoff run and now get to play in the Super Bowl. It's really exciting, really happy for him.
Yeah, that is great stuff. And George Kittle would have gone if the Niners would have beaten the Rams, guy you know well as also. And it's just great to hear all the stories that you were telling us off the air. And let's bring a few on the air about these guys in the NFL. And we ran the list a couple of weeks ago of all the Hawks, not just in the playoffs, but on NFL rosters. And you and I talked about this in October when you were on via Zoom with us. And now I got you in studio to talk about this. It is amazing to see guys come into Iowa as either under-recruited, 3 stars, and then they get to Iowa. Some of them are walk-ons, and they just blow up when they get to the NFL. What is in the water at Carver Hawkeye, or at Kinnick Stadium and in the Carver area, the Hanson football complex? What's in the water? Why are guys doing so well in the NFL from Iowa?
Well, I mentioned the last time, I think it's a easier transition when you come from a program that's run, like a professional organization. A lot of these young kids, recruiting last into their career, they're expecting to, still be told what they want to hear. But when you show up here, you're expected to improve and get better from day one. And, no one's going to hold your hand, take you to class, make sure you show up on time. You're supposed to be prepared yourself. And, that's hard for a lot of, people leaving high school, no matter, if you're an athlete or not. It's a hard thing when you go to college to learn how to take care of yourself. But having gone through that really makes the transition from the college to the pros a lot easier.
Yeah, so for you, and you talked about that, you said it was a business expectation from the very beginning. You realized that quickly. And so you see some guys come in just crazy talented, and James Vandenberg and James Morris have talked to us about that. And James said, you can see some people, James Vandenberg said, Dave, you can see some people like, okay, this guy's going to play right away. He can stay out of his own way. And other guys, you're like, I don't know if it's going to happen. But, guys can change their course. But pretty much, like you said, you're either going to see somebody who's all about business or who's not.
Yeah, I mean, and there are stories of, really talented guys who late in their career do get their act together and really take off. And then, there's a lot of guys who are under-recruited and you say, I don't know if this will ever work for them. And then 2-3 years of practice, they take off and they become a draft pick too. So, it's really just, up to the player, and how they, kind of how they prioritize, their football careers.
And that's what I was going to ask you. So it's the prioritization. It's when you said they get their stuff together. Is that what it really is for them to finally say, this is the priority and I've got to do it this way?
Yeah, I mean, I think, just anybody, the things you care about in life are the things that you end up making time for, that you sacrifice other things for. And, obviously, Division I football, there's a lot of talented guys, but the ones that stand out are the ones who are willing to sacrifice other stuff, for their football career.
Well, I look forward to having you catch up with us as the year goes on here before you go back to Atlanta. So talk to you a couple more times if it works for you. But I got to ask you before we part company today, how's Milo the Wonder Dog doing?
Hey.
You're this big guy with this small dog with the big bark, and we got to meet Milo last time on camera. How's Milo doing? You make the trip?
Yeah, he's back here in Iowa. A little guy like him doesn't love the cold. So, he's been happy that it's been above freezing again. He's finally been going outside. But, yeah, he's doing good.
Good. So who do you got, the Rams or the Bengals? I'll ask that for you. Is your buddy Jake Gervais bring home a Super Bowl trophy?
I think so. I would go with the Rams. I love watching Joe Burrow and everything he does, but I think the Rams have a better team, so that'd be my pick today.
Now you're going to catch out some Hawkeye men's basketball game, women's basketball, wrestling, and we're going to have Jett Beachum on talk about basketball, wrestling, and women's basketball, men's basketball, and wrestling. You're going to check out some Hawkeye sports while you're back?
Yeah, absolutely. Watched my first dual meet last week, obviously Penn State. The second one, I watched Ohio State the week before as well. And, I'd love to go watch Caitlin Clark play. She's an incredible athlete, so.
But she really is. Well, enjoy your time here back in Iowa City working out. Great to have you back. Good luck with the Falcons. Thanks for coming in person in studio. It's great to meet you in person.
Nice to meet you too, Dave.
Thanks, Parker, so much. He is Parker Hesse from Walk On Iowa. I'm from Postville, so that's my main interest is you're a Northeast Iowa guy, but former Hawkeye, great defensive end, now doing big things in the NFL as a tight end with the Atlanta Falcons. So thanks again, Parker, so much. Good luck.
Appreciate it.
You're very welcome. For Parker Hesse, I'm Dave O'Hara with Hawkeye. We'll be back to close out the show with Jett Beachum from Fox 28 and CBS 2 Sports Anchor. Back with more Hawkeye in a few moments.
Hi, I'm Joel from Tice Automotive Family. We're living through some of the most interesting and challenging times many of us have ever seen. Knowing who you can rely on is more important than ever. Many of us turn to our families to get us through, and the same holds true here. From our fair, upfront pricing to exceptional service after the sale, we truly want to exceed your expectations. So give us a call or stop by and let us show you what it means to be part of the Tice Automotive family.
Who do you trust to produce the best yield? A seed company that's chasing technology or a seed company that's writing the book on it? Hi, this is Joe Mershman. Mershman Seeds has been treating soybeans for decades, long before it was commonplace. We're the leader in technology, introducing Mershman Seeds' latest advancement in seed treatment, with an added fungicide to help produce a faster, more even emergence every single time. Who can you trust with your yields? Mershman Seeds, your friend in the field.
Welcome back to Hawkeye with me, Dave O'Hara. As you can see, Jett Beachum joining me, Fox 28 and CBS 2 sports guy Jett Beachum. Jett, you've been here in Iowa for a little over a year, almost a year and a half. You liking it so far?
Oh, I am liking it so far, especially now that fans are back in the stadium. I kind of missed that my first year, so it's almost kind of new to me. It's almost like a completely new season coming into this year at all Hawkeye Cyclone Sports.
Love it, love it. Thanks for being here. Great to meet you in person. Met you a couple times at Iowa games, but now we get to do it for real. And we have a mutual friend, and our buddy Chris Dewar from Quincy, and we do radio together. So it's great to catch up with you on TV. So going to start a regular thing with you. So really appreciate it. And we had Mitch Fick a couple of weeks ago. So trying to keep the theme with the Cedar Rapids guys. But let's do this. You know, you covered last year when you first got here, the Hawkeyes won the national title in wrestling. We're going to get to women's basketball here in just a moment, and also men's basketball. Full disclosure, viewers, we're recording this on Tuesday, February 1st, so all the time references and game references, bear that in mind, please. But, Jett, last Friday against Penn State, Carver Hawkeye, and compare that to last year covering the Hawks and wrestling. You're not an Iowa native. What's your experience to Carver and the Hawks in wrestling?
And again, from Texas, as you mentioned, so we knew nothing about wrestling. I knew nothing about wrestling. Coming to this state, really, I worked in the Midwest for a bit, so I kind of got a little of my feet wet there in Illinois. But coming to Iowa, it's completely different. Now, as I mentioned off the top, a lot of big differences when you don't have fans at a wrestling meet to when you have fans at the biggest wrestling meet probably in years. And the Big Ten actually hit, you know, a new viewership record with that meet. But being there in person in a sold-out Carver Hawkeye Arena for the first time, no matter what sport for me, it was unbelievable. Just the absolute intensity of it all. The fans yelling for two, the fans complaining, especially with the way things kind of went down. With you know, there were a lot of maybe iffy calls there. You know, you weren't given takedowns. There were bricks thrown, all kinds of stuff going on, especially with the scores table. I mean, you couldn't ask for more in a duel, except I guess maybe a Hawkeye win in this case when it comes to Iowa fans.
There you go, and they lose a tough one, and you talk about it was 10-10 going into some of those matches down the stretch, and Hawks end up losing it then. But I'll tell you, Tom Brands was his usual. He and Terry were both very energetic and animated. I'll be kind. But Hawks got a lot ahead of them. They're going to be, that's going to be a wrestle-off between Penn State and Iowa, not just for the Big Ten title, but for the Midlands title upcoming, for the national championship. For sure. So this was really just kind of a collision course. Yeah, it was a nice duel at the end of January, cool to talk about, but the real rubber is going to meet the road soon.
Oh, exactly. And I think, you know, you're already seeing kind of how much they miss Spencer Lee. I mean, when you have a three-time national champ that's not wrestling anymore, when you get a win from Spencer Lee, you're probably either going to get a tech fall for 5 points or going to get a pin for 6. You know, if you compare that to what you get, you know, out of Drake Ayala, a really, really good youngin, but if he loses the match, that's an 8 to 9 point swing possibly from what we have with Spencer Lee and what you kind of expect out of him. And that's going to make a difference later on. Can they make up those points with maybe some major wins, maybe some tech falls in the NCAA tournament? We'll see.
That's going to be the key, truly. You know, and if Marinelli can stay healthy, which he didn't last year, but you're smiling because, man, what an eruption Carver Hawkeye. I was watching it on TV. You were there in person when Marinelli wins his match, and everybody's expecting that. Pretty cool stuff. It had to be.
Well, it was huge, especially coming off his loss the week prior. But for him to get that major there, I mean, that was what was important. Obviously, Penn State had already majored a Hawkeye earlier in the meet, so they were kind of needing to make up some points there. He gets the major. It's a tie ball game, and you know anything could go ways they win. Obviously, you knew going into the final match at heavyweight that the Hawkeyes had lost because Warner was up 3-0, gives up those 8 points, just a rough match. But I think if you can get some changes in a few of those matches, I mean, anything can happen, especially at the NCAA tournament.
Well stated. So we've got you indoctrinated now in Iowa to wrestling. You're an expert now. But now let's talk women's basketball, and then we'll close out with talking Hawkeye men's basketball. Caitlin Clark, and again, coming from Texas, Illinois, up to here to Iowa, you are seeing, correct, and I'm running out of adjectives, so I'll just say you're seeing the best of the best. Again, as we record this on Tuesday, February 1st, tough loss at home at Carver last night to Ohio State, but 43 points. And you heard former men's player Robbie Hummel on the Big Ten Network said there's no way she's shooting that. I mean, there were a couple of 35-footers, not logo Jett, but the middle of the Hawkeye beak.
Yeah. Oh, it's ridiculous what she was able to do. I mean, you mentioned the 43 points, but she was also very, very efficient. 7 of 14 from 3. I think, 16 of 28 from the field. And she gave us the Jordan shrug after one of them when she took the lead in the fourth. I mean, she just exudes swagger. And that's the thing. It's not cocky. It's confidence. And she can back it up. And she does it every single day. She actually had a slow start to start the year where she was struggling a bit, especially with the three-point line being moved back. She has found her groove. This Hawkeye team has found their groove despite the loss to Ohio State. Had 7 in a row, all of those in Big Ten play. This is going to be a team that, again, as we saw last year, Sweet 16 run, they want to obviously make it to the Elite Eight and possibly the Final Four, and I think they have the talent to get there.
Yeah, and I got to tell you, Sonano plays very well inside. Warnock, you got Gabby Marshall. There are other players there that are vets, correct, that really pair well or nicely with Caitlin. Triple doubles, set the national for men and women's Division I basketball, back-to-back 30-point scored triple-double games. First time in college basketball history, unreal. But she's got a great supporting staff. Of course, Lisa Bluter, probably one of the best coaches, very underrated for her long time at Iowa, but Drake before that, and was a former great player in her own right from Marion or Linn-Mar area. But love talking Hawkeye women's basketball, so we're going to catch up more with you on that. They got a big season ahead of them. As you and I talked about, they've got game against Michigan this upcoming week with Hillman. That's that's going to be a great battle. They're a top 5 team. So it's going to be interesting to see how it plays out for the Iowa women down the stretch, if they can either be a contender in that Big Ten tourney and then make some noise in the national tournament. March Madness for the ladies. Now let's talk the men's. And I didn't push this back for the last part of this segment for a reason, Jett, but boy, the Hawks just can't find a consistency to close. They play well for about 36, 38 minutes. And last night again against Penn State, and now again by the time this show airs, they'll play at Ohio State, and hopefully that's not a loss. Tough team, top 20 nationally ranked. The Hawks were receiving votes, and every time they get close to the top 25, they lose a nail biter, and they lose in double overtime to Penn State. They've had a big victory against Minnesota. They've almost had Purdue twice. And boy, I'll tell you, now they've got some big games upcoming against Michigan. They still got to go back to Illinois. What do the Hawks men show you this year, and how are they looking coming down the stretch, Jett?
Well, they're consistent at being in every single game, regardless of who the opponent is. And so I think they always have a chance to win, and that's the good thing. That's what they're showing. They're never getting blown out of the water, but they're inconsistent when it comes to kind of putting things together, whether it's on both sides of the ball. Obviously, you look at a team in Rutgers. Rutgers was actually beat by Penn State, but you look at that Rutgers game, They couldn't shoot, but they played fantastic defense. It comes down to the end. Unfortunately, a foul kind of changes that game, and they lose. And the same thing happens with Penn State. I mean, if it's not for the miracle play from Keegan Murray tapping that ball in off the Jordan Bohannon miss, they're losing that game, in regulation. They unfortunately end up losing in double OT when a Penn State guy hits an unbelievable 3 to send it to double overtime. So this is a team that they've had some bad breaks, not only with injuries. We'll see what happens with Connor McCaffrey, separated his shoulder. He's coming off his best performance, of the year when he hit 4 threes in the first half. He was averaging 1.2 points, had 12. So that's 10 to 10-fold.
He had 4 3-pointers going into that game and had 4 in the first half, to your point.
I mean, it's just unbelievable. So, I mean, we know what this team, it's amazing what Keegan Murray and his development has gone, but the problem is now teams know how good of a commodity he is, and so they're game planning against him. Luckily, you have Chris Murray, who is now coming on. He's had, great flashes, but you just need more from the guard play. And the guard play really struggled against Penn State. I think, 0 for 18 from the field. Aaron Eulis needs to do better. Jordan Bohannon need a little bit more of that experience, that three-point shooting to kind of start hitting again. Joe Toussaint, let's see if, maybe we can cut down the turnovers, because we know, he's an absolute, junkyard dog when it comes to playing. But this team just needs to find some consistency, and they've been inconsistent about that.
It's interesting that you made that point, because I've had on this show, as people know, leading up to the end of the year and then now in the new year, we've had back-to-back shows with the Murray twins. They've talked about consistency or lack thereof. We talked to to Fran McCaffrey, Patrick McCaffrey, Connor McCaffrey. We all talked about how consistent can they be. We knew they could score. We knew they could get it off the glass. Now you got to stop people. You got to rebound. And that's really going to come down to it. And then fans, I know you're restless, but when a Hawkeye gets 2 fouls, he is not playing the rest of the first half.
Problem, so Keegan Murray's been getting a lot of foul trouble.
Early foul trouble last night against Penn State after about the 10-minute mark. Okay, so he got 2 fouls. Fans, Fran McCaffrey's rule. He is not playing anybody with 2 fouls in the first half.
Whether you agree with it or not, he just that's his principle. That's what he runs with. He likes to have his guys in the second half.
And he had 21 points in the second half in overtime, so it works for him. But again, so rest easy, fans. That's the way it's going from here on out. But you're correct, though, when we talk about the rest of the year. The Hawkeyes are halfway through the Big Ten season, 4-6 in the first half, and you are so correct on that. These next 10 games, if they win some of those close games, they easily could be 7-3, 8-2 right now in their Big Ten games. So hopefully the next 10 are better off for them, and can't wait to talk to you about it. He's Jett Beachum, and he is the sports anchor at KFXA, Fox 28, and CBS 2, KGAN in Cedar Rapids, a Sinclair property where all the stations were on. So great to have you on.
Appreciate it, as always.
My pleasure. Jett Beachum for Hawkeyed with me, Dave O'Hara. Thanks also to Parker Hesse, and to you for tuning in, as always, and to Robin Abbey from Homegrown Media. So for the aforementioned guests, I'm Dave O'Hara with Hawkeyed. That's all from me. Thanks to all of you. And as always, thanks for staying tuned at the end of the program for these rolling credits to give our advertisers and sponsors the attention and credit they so richly deserve. And as always, to our aforementioned guests and to you, the viewers. That's all from us at Hawkeyed. Thanks to all of you.